Good morning. It's 10 a.m. here in Lagos, Nigeria. Great to have you. This is Business Morning. I'm Ladi Williams. Let's take a look at some news in the world of business now. Oil prices rose today, extending strong gains in the previous session after industry data showed U.S. crude stocks unexpectedly fell last week, just as near-term travel demand picked up with pandemic curbs easing. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 23 cents to $84.38 a barrel, adding to a 2.7% gain on Tuesday. Brent crude futures jumped 36 cents to $85.14 a barrel, after rising 1.6% on Tuesday. Well, tightening global oil inventories have supported strong crude prices during the past several months, and the latest data from the American Petroleum Institute reinforced the view that supply remains constrained. And 4 Nigerian tech startups have received 5 million naira grants each from the Nigerian Telecommunications Commission as part of its efforts to encourage indigenous technologies and stimulate economic growth. The companies which emerged winners of the NCC's Virtual Internet of Things Code Camp event for this year include the Clearflow System Hub, Alias Engineering Teams, and Calibotics and CyberNorth Tech. They received the grant for their novel, innovative digital solutions aimed at making life better for Nigerians, which include addressing the challenges of insecurity and stemming the growth in national e-waste race. And the federal government says plans are underway to raise bonds to the tune of 500 billion naira to bridge the country's housing financing gap. The initiative, which is still at development stage, aims to provide a sustainable financing mechanism for a national housing development in order to address the perennial problem of housing deficit in the country. Speaking at the National Housing Investment Forum in Abuja, the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, notes that the ultimate objective is to ensure that houses developed through the initiative are affordable for the average Nigerians. Do take a listen.
The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, is leading other heads of government agencies in the nation's housing sector at this Housing Investment Forum in Abuja. The crux of the discussion is finding robust and sustainable financing options for housing development in the country.
We have realized a long time ago that the kind of funding we require and desire can only be gotten through a handshake with the capital market. So our current reality in the housing finance sector therefore demands a radical appraisal and redirection.
The federal government has several housing developments financing interventions. The latest is a plan to raise finance through the capital markets.
Some have called it a bond. It may be a bond. It may be real estate investment trust. Whatever it is, I hope that it is innovative and sustainable in the sense that it makes it possible to finance not only the construction of housing, but also the acquisition of houses, and to build a real housing economy.
However, there are concerns from the Debt Management Office.
In the past 3 years, we have worked with the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to issue Sukuk, and we can see the effect across the country. So what's the challenge? I would have jumped at it and said, oh yes, it's project tight, housing is project tight, so let's issue the bond. But we have to be mindful of the fact that our debt stock is growing very rapidly. Just to put it in context, as at August, from the figures released by our line ministry, debt service to revenue was 71%.
The plan is to raise between 300 and 500 billion naira bonds.
This idea is focused on the private sector efforts, private sector plans, private sector capabilities, building on the network they have across Nigeria. So we will be looking at between the region of maybe 500 or 300 billion naira.
The housing deficit is a major challenge in Nigeria. Although the government has no data on the housing needs of its citizens, Nigerians will cherish a home of their own acquired through an affordable financing mechanism.
All right, Business Morning continues in a moment. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we get to other developments in the world of business in Nigeria. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning live on Channel Television. Well, high prices for smokeless liquid petroleum gas driven by global price increases, a falling naira, and increased local taxes are forcing local vendors to add wood and charcoal to their cook stands. The challenge is the wood smoke clouding Nigeria's carbon reduction plans and efforts to combat climate change. Do take a listen to this report.
Nigerians have been lining up to buy Aduni Abdul's moi moi, black-eyed peas steamed in leaves for more than a decade in the vast tech accessories market in Lagos. 5 years ago, she ditched the smoke that came with it. Now it's back. High prices for smokeless liquid petroleum gas (LPG) have forced Abdul and many like her to add wood and charcoal to their cook stands. She had dropped them in 2016 amidst a campaign to improve public health.
Gas is costly. That's why I'm using firewood. If I don't use it, I will not be able to cook and sell to feed my family. I know charcoal causes illness. The smoke normally causes chest pain, but since there's no alternative, I have to use it.
Abdul is hoping for a respite from rising prices. The smoke, she says, hurts her chest, and she wants to use more gas.
I want the government to help and reduce this, because the little profit I make is now shared in buying other products. We're begging them.
Nigeria's LPG use had been growing quickly, but in 2018, according to the International Energy Agency, only about 5% of Nigerians use LPG for cooking, while 73% relied on charcoal or biomass like wood.
They've been flaring gas in this country for years now, decades. And we need this gas for cooking. But you see, they don't want to invest in liquefying the natural gas and purifying it for domestic use.
Lagos charcoal seller Jerry Inyang now sells as many as 90 packs of charcoal a day, tripling his daily sales from last year.
People now come more to charcoal. Because I can even recall when one of my customers were saying gas is more expensive now, that we should be packing more charcoal because he's coming to buy more charcoal because he can't afford the gas.
Burning LPG emits around 50% less carbon than charcoal and 20% less than heating oil, and switching to the gas is a central plank of carbon reduction plans of Africa's most populous nation, where more than 200 million people live. President Muhammadu Buhari referenced cleaner cooking in his speech last week at the COP26 Climate Summit, but LPG prices have risen by 60% over the past year in the country.
Welcome back. Now for AFEX commodities updates. We have agriculture remains a very viable sector, begging for investors, but getting credible agri investment platforms is the issue here. But we'll get to that after this, just after this. Welcome back. Well, today there are various agri-tech startups that have made farming more profitable by eliminating risk exposure and delivering ROI to investors who do not have to buy land, place workers on salaries, or even burn cash on pest control and management. Well, we have Stephanie Mills now, growth manager at AFEX, to explain all of this to us. Great to have you on the program. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Ladi. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, so looking at, Agritech, now we know I've seen a lot of these companies come up and, they promise ROIs, from 15% and upward, but, at some point they're not able to deliver. Well, what do you think is the problem here?
I think the major issue is over-promising and under-delivering. And I think this comes from the lack of expertise in the whole agri value chain, right? So, like we know, it's not just the end user. There's the farmer, the processor, the aggregators, and then the investors, right? So there's a whole value chain that these agri-techs are not playing in, right? And there's a large knowledge gap. So that is one of them. And there's a credit risk, right? So you're over-promising even before you start up, and you cannot now deliver. And that's where the problem comes from. So that in itself is a problem. And I think another reason would be, which is out of our control, is the climate change, right? And this is why you shouldn't overpromise, right? So there are things that are not within your control, with the lack of infrastructure that comes from the government as well, and the climate change. So all of these things mumbled up affects all of these things. And there's no agri-tech without agribusiness, right? So you have to actually understand the intricacies of starting an agribusiness before you can now promise people, right? Yeah. So
And but do you think some of them are just outright scams?
Yeah, of course. And I think investors as well should do due diligence, right? You can't see high risk and, high reward. It's that's the game. But you see high risk and low reward, and you want to jump on it. So it's really on the onus of the investor as well, because you can't invest in what you don't understand, first of all. Yeah. So
what are the some indicators investors should look at before actually investing in some of these startups?
To build credibility, you have to ensure that where you're investing in investments, there's some regulation involved, right? So with AFEX, right, we are registered under the Securities Exchange Commission, and that gives credibility to our investors. So there's several things as well, right? Yeah.
Okay, so is there any difference between COMEX and many other agri startups offering alternative investment opportunities at this time?
So I think I would just like to buttress that at AFEX with COMEX, we use technologies to solve agri problems, but it's not an agri-tech, right? I'll start with that first. Okay. And so we're able to differentiate ourselves with the regulators, first of all, and the fact that every product that is on the platform is approved by the Securities Exchange Commission, first of all, right? And secondly, we're able to provide product offerings to suit different investors' appetite. And we're not guaranteeing high returns. All our prices are determined by the market forces of demand and supply.
So there are no promises here. You just follow the current market demand and supply.
Yeah, well, so, we promise guarantee and...
At least you're promising something. Yeah. Anyway, what are some of the direct policies that can be implemented to ensure that agricultural investments are kind of safe at this point?
Yeah, so the onus is on both the agri-tech companies and the regulators to ensure that there's enough information to ensure there's accountability and transparency, right? So a lot of agri-tech businesses are there and regulators are not even aware of their existence. There has to be some hand-holding to ensure that all of this is easily accessible. There's information to ensure that investors know what they're getting into before they start investing. And investors also have to ensure that they are also going through the whole process as well.
And now, we're getting to a point where, more of these startups are springing up. But what do you think is what is your outlook, for this particular sector going forward?
I think, technology is definitely going to play a huge role in ensuring that there's more information passed across, more knowledge sharing and hand-holding in the whole process. We see that more people, when they're starting up, they'll try and get licensed to ensure that there's some credibility. And that also keeps them accountable as well, right? To ensure that you're not just in business for yourself for profit, you're in business for profit for the people and the planet.
Okay. All right, we'll continue with AFEX. After the break, we'll be crossing over to Abuja to have a Micro Martins just after this. Do stay with us. Welcome back. All right, let's bring in Michael Martins now, portfolio manager at AFEX, to run us through. Great to have you, Michael. Good morning.
Hi, Laddie. Good morning. As
Good
you well know,
morning.
it's always a pleasure to be here.
A pleasure to have you. Well, first, take us through the week's activities on the market.
Surely. So let me give a bit of summary with regards to what happens on the commodities exchange from the date of the 2nd of November to the 8th of November. So with regards to the volume of transactions traded on the exchange, that value went up by 6,532% from 144.4 million to close the trading week at over 9.5 billion, which is symptomatic of the idea that, or the fact rather, that we are having a lot of traders on the exchange. We saw a similar increase in the total number of contracts traded on the exchange, which went up by 158.28% from 477,115 contracts to close the trading week at over 1.2 million contracts. The total number of deals, however, fell from 71 deals to close the trading week at 61 deals, falling by 14%. The ACI, which is the AFEX Commodities Index, and the AEI, which is the AFEX Export Index, both remained unchanged at 427.34 and 168.08. With regards to the volume of contracts traded on the exchange, like I said earlier, we saw a massive volume of contracts traded on the exchange this week, with the biggest change happening with paddy rice, which went from trading 0 contract last week to trading more than 1 million contracts this week. We also saw massive volume of contracts change with maize, we traded up from 195,000 contracts to trading over 229,000 contracts. So those are largely the biggest changes with regards to volume of contracts traded on the exchange that we saw in the week under consideration. With regards to price changes on the exchange, the biggest change happened with soybean, which went up by 8.74%, gaining 29.29 in the contract value to close the trading week at 364.29 naira per kg. And then the second, we also have maize, which went up by 5.57%, gaining 10.03 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at just over 119 naira per contract. We also had a significant price change with cocoa, which went up by 4.17%, gaining 59 in the contract value to close the trading week at 1,250 naira per contract. And last but certainly not least, the only red decline that we saw on the exchange in the week under consideration was paddy rice, which fell by 0.45%, losing just 9.8 naira in the contract value to close the trading week at 214 naira per contract. So those are largely some of the biggest changes that we saw with regards to price, volume, and then a bit of summary with regards to what happened on the exchange in the week under consideration from the 2nd of November to the 8th of November.
All right, Michael, great, massive move there from the soybean. But with regards to trading, what are some key considerations for trade, both on the exchange and on the open market?
Thank you very much, Ladi, for that question. What you very often find out is that the same considerations that apply to trading and aggregation, on the exchange also tends to apply to trading also on the open market. So with the exchange, there are 3 main components that I would say matter a whole lot when it comes to trading on the exchange. The first of is quantity, right? So it is to say that the volume that you have trading on the exchange is a derivative of the volume that you have available in the open market, right? So if you don't have a significant volume available in the open market, that to a large extent can determine the volume of trades that you have on the exchange. Secondly would also be quality, right? So due to the fact that the exchange acts primarily as an intermediary between people who buy commodities and then people who sell them, it is incumbent on the exchange to make sure that every single product that goes through the exchange from one buyer to a seller is of the best quality possible. And to that regard, we have quality specifications on the exchange, that cuts across from grains that we trade on the exchange, even to all the export products that we trade on the exchange. And that's particularly important, right? Because that's part of your unique value proposition as an exchange. The ability to guarantee that quality is what makes it's one of the biggest advantages that you have over people just going into the open market to just trade willy-nilly without really having any overview of what the quality that they're trading. And the third will also be price. Ideally, as an exchange, because you are acting as an intermediary, it's incumbent on you to find the price point that is both beneficial to the person who's selling the commodity and also to the person who's buying the commodity. So at every point in time, you're trying to balance both sides of that trade, equation. I think those are largely the three major factors or three key considerations for trade on the exchange. In the open market, though, as opposed to, in addition rather to what the factors that we have, contributing factors that we consider for trade on the exchange, we don't also have cash or capital or whatever name you want to give to it, which is basically to say, in terms of settlement in the open market, cash is king, right? And people who trade in the open market very often have to reconcile themselves to the fact that if you do not have cash at hand, you will not take any grains home. So largely, those are the three different factors that, three key considerations for trade on the exchange. And then in addition to that, you then have cash being a major consideration for trading the open market.
Right, well, cash is king there. Well, are there any dynamics playing out in the open market as a result of, price changes, during the last commodity season?
Yes, exactly. And this is a bit out of the survey that I sort of went to the open market to do last week. This is a bit of the feedback that we got from the market. And if you notice very carefully, a lot of the price dynamics that happened last season, the biggest price change that we saw in the commodities market was particularly with soybean, which went up by more than 100% over the course of last commodity trading season. So what that did was that essentially spurred a lot of farmers to cultivate a lot of soybean, in comparison to maize. And I must explain that dynamic. It is to say that for a lot of farmers, they aren't necessarily just monoproduct cultivators. They essentially, most of the time, tend to cultivate more than one crop, per time, sometimes in the same location, sometimes in different locations, right? So when you see that type of massive price increase in a commodity, farmers will tend to cultivate a whole lot more of that commodity in an attempt to, take advantage of that price appreciation, so that they can essentially make a lot of money. So what we are seeing in the market this year is that we are seeing significant volume of soybean come into the market, even more than, the volumes that we've seen for maize, even though, the huge volumes that we expect from maize aren't really expected until like the second to the third week of the month of November. So yes, we are seeing a lot of volume of soybean come into the market as a result of the massive price increase that happened with soybean last season.
Yeah, quite a massive price move there. All right, Michael Martin, Portfolio Manager at Apex, thank you so much for coming on Business Morning.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, we'll take a moment now. Business Morning returns in a moment. All right, on to our next conversation now. Well, today is International Accounting Day, and accounting is vital to business and public finance success. And interestingly, the celebration is today, 10th of November each year. It's an opportunity to acknowledge the great work accountants do to make businesses thrive, support the economy, and help people navigate the complexities of finance. Well, we have joined us now Professor Benjamin Osisioma, President, Association of National Accountants of Nigeria. Great to have you on the program, sir. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's International Accounting. Yeah, thank you. It's International Accounting Day today. Can you tell us the significance of this day and why it's celebrated globally?
Well, thank you very much. Actually, the International Accounting Day dates back to, it became almost the norm about 1972. And in the U.S., you have the National Accounting Day, International Accounting Day, and in different climes, there are different dates. Actually, it's not the November 10 is not universal. In the U.S., they regard May 10. Some say October 21. This last year, one of the states had their own on October 21. But the important thing is that accountants, like you observed, they play a very key role in business. I usually say that we hold the pulse of business, and it's our duty to ensure that business runs smoothly. We oil the machinery of business. If you take it historically, traditionally, the accountant was more like someone who advised from the background. Hardly demanding any rights. He could be seen, he could not, or heard behind the scenes. Not seen, actually. And the accountant was not very much considered a great factor in business. We were told in basic management that accounting is a staff function as opposed to a line function. Because it is a staff function, it has an authority to advise. If it's in a line function, it would have authority to act. And so we end up advising executives who may or may not accept what we're saying.
Right.
And often, almost always, the accountant gets away with, goes with the short end of the stick. Anytime things go wrong, we pile it on the accountant. When there's embezzlement and corruption, we pile it on the accountant. When the economy is not going well, we pile it on the accountant. And the accountant hardly has any say. So
Okay.
it's indeed a relief that the world thought that we should have an accounting day.
To celebrate.
Let's be head for once.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yes,
to celebrate these men, they may be crunching figures, but they have something to, contribute to whatever we're doing anywhere.
Right. And, accountancy, as you said, plays a key role when it comes to actually budgeting, both private and public sectors. And President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled a federal budget estimate of about 16.39 trillion naira for 2022, tagged the budget of economic growth and sustainability. What were the key takeaways for you looking at that budget?
First of all, the theme says a budget of economic growth and sustainability. My first reaction was, what are the drivers of that growth? What are the issues around which the growth factor would revolve? What has government put in place to drive this growth? And then before we begin to talk about the sustainability aspect to it, the truth of the matter is that I also listened to the minister say that the crucial problem today is not debt overload or debt burden. It's more like a revenue generation. I think the issue is we are concerned with both of them, both revenue generation and the debt issue. I think that the budget has laid down some, basic planks. But you find that we're expecting a deficit of over 6 trillion naira. When you add it to particularly the domestic debt profile that is rising, even the external debt profile that is rising, when you look at the overall debt GDP ratio, you discover that we are steadily rising. I hope we don't get to the point where we have to globetrot the world asking them to cancel our debts again. Nobody will listen to us, I suspect. And I also see that government expects to raise a lot of revenue from excise, duties, and the VAT and all that. I would have wanted to know, what do we intend to do to bring Nigerians back to work, to increase productivity, so that the informal sector will thrive, so that people will generate revenue that will keep the government going, keep the entire economy running. So these are the factors that I was looking forward to. And I also know that somehow security issues are interwoven with economic factors when we come to particularly developing countries like ours. These are some of the issues that's why in the budget so much was given to defense, so much to education. One would have thought that education would be out there. Something has been done, but still a far cry from the expectation that 25% should go to education and that kind of thing. I just retired from the university after nearly 40 years of service. And I must tell you that
congrats.
I think that one of the problems we have in this country is that we are underutilizing the resources we have in the academic institutions. The papers we write, the ideas we canvass, we may get them occasionally from time to time to sit on boards of government, but we can galvanize elsewhere. They are the engine room for the ideas that drive the nation. I'm looking forward to a budget that will harness all these things. And then one last point. It's not enough to put together a budget. I like follow-up processes. How did the past budget do? What are the indices to show whether we are succeeding or failing? How do we ensure that the next one will do better than the last one? And so that it doesn't just become an annual jamboree. Let me leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Moving on to, other issues like, currency. Now, recently the CBN launched the e-naira, which is a digital version, of the naira. How do you see this impacting the, accounting system?
Well, the idea of an e-naira, we are told, is to facilitate the payment process, to make it easy to enter into transactions and settle them. That's okay. That alone could bring some speed into the commercial process. It could hasten and make the process move better. That's okay. I've heard a little bit of, well, of course, with time, we'll get used to what it involves. The e-wallet and all that, funding it and making sure that you make your payments. It doesn't add to your money, it just enables you to make payments quicker. For us accountants, we don't have any we don't have any take there either way. Whether it's e-currency or normal currency, our duty is to track, to follow the funds. I usually tell people that money leaves trail. And what we do is follow it and make sure that we give an account. The accountant primary duty is to report. So we will report, whether it's e-currency or
but interestingly,
hard currency, virtual currency.
But interestingly, with the e-naira, most of these transactions are supposed to be seen, like on a public ledger on the blockchain. So I'm thinking that should help accountants actually be able to track the money in real time.
That's what I'm saying, that money leaves a trail. So somehow it would aid transparency. It may bring some compulsion on the need for accountability. But if I were to say, I would think that perhaps the more desperate need of the economy at this point is to see what we're going to do about the value of our naira, whether it's e-naira or physical naira.
Right.
A situation where the dollar is rising and rising and rising, and this is an import-dependent economy with all the ripple effects that will go with it. I think it's a little too problematic. I thought the CBN, while we get us this e-naira, also see how we can address this issue. I know that the value of the naira is tied with the productivity of the economy. What do we need to do to improve the strength of our local currency so that our international transactions will favor us more?
All right. Okay. Well, very briefly now, what is the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria contributing, in equipping accountants and ensuring, a professional personnel?
Thank you very much. You see, the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria came on board 1979. We were first registered in 1983, then received a charter in the form of a law in 1993. And we've not been there for too long, but in the later time we've been there. We have membership of over 45,000.
Right.
We every year we train our members to remain on the cutting edge of developing knowledge in the profession. We just finished a national conference where we tried to look at economic growth side by side with the post-COVID era, the developments, even our mandatory continuing professional development. And let me emphasize, we've said it often, that we started MCPD for professional groups in Nigeria in 1996. That was when our then president, late Dr. J.K. Odumeru, introduced MCPD, mandatory continuing professional development,
right,
so that people will not just have degrees and qualifications that are rusty. They get into organizations, colonize positions, and become an albatross on the neck of the organization.
All right,
so we train them to have better skills and to do better, good techniques, good knowledge, good competencies, so that the organization will grow.
Okay. All right, Mr. Benjamin Osisioma, President, Association of National Accountants of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on the program, and happy International Accounting Day.
Thank you very much. Celebrate with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. For the opening call to the market, we have Will Ebong. Well, it's like the bull is sustaining its grip on the market. How's it looking?
Yes, Laddie, good morning. The equities, like you said, as you said, sustained Monday's positive trading as the all share index advanced by 1.12% to 43,730.55 points and increasing the market value by 252 billion naira. On Monday, we saw it rise as much as 653 billion naira, and 252 billion naira is just like an icing on the cake. And the sectoral performance, I mean, except for the volume and value and deals, which were down yesterday, every other thing was up. The volume, value, and deal. I mean, we saw the sectoral performance. Insurance was the only downer here, but banking was up 0.07%, consumer goods 0.21%, same as oil and gas 0.12%. We're going to go flip quickly to the fixed income market where the trading was quite quiet yesterday. We saw very bullish, but it was quite bullish. Bullish sentiments were just trading activities yesterday in yesterday's trading session. Also, the treasury bills market, we also saw bullish sentiments there, and investors are being cautious ahead of the treasury bill, the primary auction, which is taking place today. But to give us more insight about that, we have Dimeji Obasa. He's a fixed income dealer at Access Bank. Good morning, Dimeji. Dimeji, can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, it's great to have you. Dimeji, bullish sentiments seem to have made a comeback. They have returned to the market. What is driving this, and can it be sustained?
So that's what we have seen over the last 2 to 3 weeks in the market. We've seen significant demand for treasury bills in particular, and then that has sort of flowed into shorter tenor bonds.
Okay, so quickly, what do you think we should expect from the market auction today? Very briefly.
All right. So what we expect is a continuation of the downward trend that we have seen from auctions in the past, in the recent past. This is as a result of the increased demand for treasury bills. We expect that to drive the rates down at the auction today.
Thank you so much, Dimeji. We'll look forward to the auction results, which will come out later today, and we'll see what trend, what pattern we will be taking. The CBN will be taking, or the DM will be taking this time around.
Thank you.
So, Ladi, that's what we have for the markets today. Hopefully, we expect the bullish run. Yeah, the bullish run continues in the markets. Both at the NASD, we also saw bullish run there, sustained the uptick, which started on Monday. We're hoping that that continues too as well.
Well, the equities market is looking quite interesting to me now, and I'm calling a green today.
Yes. Okay.
All right, Will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll do an opening call to London. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back. Now let's head on to the UK with Juliana. Now, great to have you, Juliana. Good morning. Well, a Supreme Court ruling may force Google to pay all iPhone UK users £750 in compensation for secret tracking. What are you hearing about this?
Good morning, Laddie. Well, yeah, this case is being described as potentially the most significant legal case in history, and that's because if the Supreme Court ruled against Google later today, then it could open the floodgates for several cases citing similar issues, which is all about privacy and data. Now, this case goes back to 2011, so between 2011 and 2012, Google are accused of secretly taking the data of people using an iPhone, an iPad, and a MacBook when they were using the Safari system. There's a lot of technical savviness into that, which I'm not too sure about. But an individual called Richard Lloyd discovered all of this a couple of years ago. His case has gone to the Supreme Court, and he's not only representing himself, he's representing about 4 million customers who are thought to have been using these devices during that period. We are going to be waiting for an outcome later today. I believe Google are defending themselves by saying that they didn't do this purposefully, that they thought within the browser settings they weren't collecting the data, but alas, lots of data was collected. Who knows what they went on to use that data for. Big significant day for Google, because not only are they going to find out the ruling of this case, there's also another case that's been ongoing, that's been brought by the EU Commission. They they fined the tech titan about 3.8 billion euros, a record fine, because they are alleged to have forced any app to get to their Google app settings. So Google are in the headlines today. A couple of weeks ago, it was Facebook. There's been a lot of regulatory crackdowns on the big tech titans, so we'll just have to wait and see what these outcomes are.
Yeah, so many eyes on the big tech at this moment. Well, the Bank of England and the Treasury are to launch a formal consultation on a UK central bank digital currency. It looks like they're taking their time with this launch.
Absolutely, they're taking their time. Bitcoin, as a lot of the press here in the UK are calling it, is likely to be the name of a new cryptocurrency which has been put together by the Treasury and the Bank of England. As you said, consultations are ongoing. If we are going to see some sort of digital coin here in the UK, it won't be available until at the very earliest 2025. And that's because we know that Britain, unlike many other nations, are very, very skeptical about cryptocurrencies. They're very difficult to regulate, but you can't avoid them. I believe it was just yesterday that Bitcoin hit over $68,000. Ether's doing very, very well. Bitcoin has jumped about 70% against the US dollar. We're moving in that direction. We've seen it from the New York City mayor-elect and also with what's going on across other states in America. And I don't think Britain want to be left out of that, but they want to make sure that the technology is in place, that the regulations are in place, and that those who cryptocurrencies target, which is predominantly the younger people in this country, are full aware of all of the risks and the regulations that have to be put in place if you're going to risk your money on it.
Right. All right, Juliana. But in the meantime, we have naira. Thank you so much, Juliana. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, let's take a look at what's happening in the crypto market there. We have the market cap pulling back from that $3 trillion mark. It's down by 1.64% this morning, and 24-hour volume traded in the total crypto market about $134.59 billion. That's up about 5.78%. Bitcoin dominance, 43.38%, down about 0.31%. Price of Bitcoin, $66,585. They're getting that pullback down about 2.08% this morning. 24-hour volume, $37.92 billion. And see Ethereum there at $4,700, down 1.53%. So we're seeing major pullbacks in the market at this point. Let's bring in Gilbert Jopata now to bring us up to speed. Great to have you, Gilbert.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Gilbert. Well, we see the Financial Action Task Force, they published an anti-money laundering guideline on cryptocurrencies. How's it looking? Is it looking good for cryptocurrencies or bad?
Okay, it is neither here or there. The first thing is that the Financial Action Task Force has a sole purpose of establishing international policies to combat money laundering and financial terrorism. So they are actually doing what they are meant to do. They actually seek to treat stable currencies as bank and also requires both the identity of originators and recipients of transaction, which me and you know that the financial infrastructure of the decentralized finance doesn't come with that, unlike the traditional financial system. So they are going to be faced with a whole lot of challenges facing this, but they have the possible technology. They also have more like the legal backing to be able to help the industry comply as much as possible. I am looking at, first of all, there is this startup called Notabene. Notabene is a startup that provides end-to-end encryption of they provide identity of users. They track, identify identity of users on the blockchain to help them combat money laundering and terrorism finance. So they possibly will be using the Notabene. They may work with Notabene and probably also impose KYC to providers of cryptocurrency services, and possibly also place sanction on defaulters to enable them achieve this goal.
All right, Gilbert. Well, I guess it's all about regulation at this time with cryptocurrency. Thank you so much, Gilbert, for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
All right, now let's look at my coin toward the coin on my radar. Right now, I'm watching BNB there, priced at $635. This one was trading in October around about $500. It's been on a run now, got as high as over $666 in the last run there. A market cap about $105.29 billion. They did say the BUSD, the stable coin, is quite stable, at this point, with all the issues with stable coins there. So I'm seeing a bit of price action coming in near term for this one. And analysts, some traders there believe that BNB would be the next one to break a new all-time high. So my eyes on BNB at this point. And that's a wrap on the program. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to join us by 1:30 on Business Incorporated for more updates on developments in the world of business. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.